be leaders ourselves.
Black women are being used by the Democrat Party.
All of these socioeconomic indicators are in the negative, particularly for Black people. They want mob rule. When Trump was in office, please somebody tell me what act of dictatorship did he perform?
She had Donald Trump's hair on top of her head. And she's sitting here talking about brown girl this, brown girl that.
Because she's a Black woman.
They would ask her how to spell her first name and clap like sea monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
What's up, everybody? It is Monday, the last Monday of June, and it's time for Pop and Politics. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-host. All right, of course, it's Monday, so we have Tyrone Keys here of Soldiers of Finance right here on YouTube. All right, we have Yana, Nicole Bennett, and Shelly E. All right, before we light this fire, do your part. Tap that thumbs up, folks, as you all come in here. Hit that like button and subscribe. Also, turn on your notifications. We're live here on YouTube and Rumble. And if you're on the go, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. We love our chat. We shout out every super chat. So drop your thoughts, show your love, and join the conversation that the mainstream media wishes didn't exist. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. So stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, everybody, let's set it off. Lots to talk about tonight. How are you all doing before we dig in? How are you all doing tonight?
Doing great.
Good. All right. Great. Don't forget, folks, we are on the road to 200,000 subscribers. We're really trying to push to that. So please, as you guys watch tonight, share this broadcast, send it on post it on your social media, share it in a DM. We really want to hit 200,000 subs by the end of the summer. So it's a big leap for us, but we know we can do it with your help. So please like, share, and subscribe. All right. So let's get into this. So much to talk about. I'm trying to figure out where to begin. Let's start out with this big, beautiful bill. So you guys know that President Trump's big, beautiful bill, he has been pushing for this. And apparently there could be a vote by Wednesday morning. Senate Republicans cleared a key hurdle this weekend, advancing President Trump's reconciliation bill by a narrow vote. But I just saw a headline. It looks like something came out. So this is according to Politico, just announced the Senate mega bill is on a collision course with House fiscal hawks. So they're saying here, this is of 7:00 this evening, House fiscal hawks are looking at the math underlying Senate Republicans' sprawling domestic policy legislation, and they don't like what they see. So as Senate Republicans try to muscle President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill for final passage, they're on track to violate a budget framework brokered between House fiscal hawks and Speaker Mike Johnson. Under the framework, if the GOP piles on tax cuts over $4 trillion, they'd need to match them dollar for dollar with additional spending cuts beyond the $1.5 trillion in the House passed bill. Nicole, do you think this thing is going to pass by 4th of July?
Yes. There is a concerted effort to get it done. There are meetings going on continuously to get this thing done. I watched probably 4 hours of the Votorama today, and I'm going to tell you, it was mind-numbingly dumb. It was a waste of taxpayer money. It kind of blew me away how many of the senators were not in their seats. They were not. They don't take any of this seriously. These folks are not serious. So we really do need to start thinking about our votes a little bit more carefully when it comes to who's going to serve the public. Some of these people are just absent-minded and absence in their presence, and those two things are on a collision course with the American public. I think most people are over them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this bill is over 900 pages long, contains Trump's top tax and spending priorities, including making his 2017 tax cuts permanent, no tax on tips and overtime, border funding, and a $4,000 bonus deduction for Social Security recipients, eliminating federal benefits to illegals, and much more. Now, there have been headlines talking about these illegals. I saw something about that saying specifically that they did not vote to remove the illegals from Medicaid. Is it? Have you been following that?
What did you say? You blinked out a little bit.
Oh, there was a headline that came out this evening saying that the Medicaid portion to take illegals off of Medicaid. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, to take illegals off of Medicaid did not pass. So through the Senate, they did not get the vote to take them off. Did you guys see anything about that?
I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, I did. I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. What did you?
It failed. That so far that measure has failed, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of amendments, and some of these amendments are worded in such a way that makes you believe that it's something that it's not. Democrats play with language at any section of the government. So there were lots of amendments. One was to keep them on the Medicaid rolls, to not require identification or citizenship in order to be on the rolls. Then there was one to take them off the rolls. I mean, when I tell you they voted on everything except for the color of the paper and the ink, they're probably voting on that now. They have wasted so much time in the minutia of this thing. It's when I tell you mind-numbing, it is absolutely mind-numbing. 4 hours of votes about everything. And let's not even talk about the poor clerks that had to read all 1,000 pages of this monstrosity. It was just, it makes you want your tax money back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's down to the wire. Shelley, what are your thoughts on this thing passing?
I think it will pass. I'm not so sure about the fourth because, as we know, our beloved senators and congressmen, they love to take a break anytime they can get one. And even if it's not a holiday, they're on some kind of break that doesn't stop them from taking a break. So the people, what the American people want and need, that's, I guess I would say, secondary or tertiary to them taking a break. Okay, the much needed break that they always seem to need. That's number one. Number two. Yes, there are provisions. I've said before, there are provisions in this bill. Overwhelmingly, overall, I would vote for it. But we cannot mistake or we cannot ignore some of the provisions that are stopping or certainly seem to be an edge in some of the senators who have a problem with it. For one, the debt ceiling and the debt. This is the problem. Nicole, to your point, these congressmen and senators are going back and forth because guess what? This is what they do. They don't even pass budgets anymore. Our Congress has largely given up their rightful place, their legitimate authority to agencies and bureaucrats to run our country while they go off lollygagging, doing whatever it is they do, except in the best interest of the American people. So my angst is going to always go to Congress in and of itself, because this is where the rubber should meet the road. These are the legitimately elected people who are supposed to be representing America's or American interests, which they largely do not. I don't care what party. I know the Democrats do it much more, or they do a lot more damage, but I am really fed up with Congress and the Senate as a whole. I don't give a damn about party, because as a taxpayer, this needs to stop. They haven't passed a budget. They keep kicking Social Security down the street, or whatever you want to call it. What is happening for the best interest of Americans? Not much, except this is what we're paying for, this bickering back and forth. Illegals being on any federal program should not even be an issue. It shouldn't even be a conversation starter. They should not be there from the beginning.
Agreed.
Yeah, Yana, you spoke about this on a show in the past, talking about how you agreed that illegal or legal, you had mentioned, should not get social services. Can you talk more about that?
Well, it depends. Of course, illegals should not be getting social services. People who have a green card, like a residency, then they do qualify. If they're making a certain income, the people who have legal residency, like a green card, they basically have the same rights in terms of social services. But definitely someone who is on some sort of visa, like a work visa, definitely not tourist visa, should not qualify for any social services. And actually, when I was here for the first like 5-6 years in America, me and my family, we were immigrants. We had green cards. We didn't even apply for Medicaid. I mean, I'm not really sure why, but it was something like, can you still see me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know why is that, but we just felt like we just needed to work and pay our own bills. It wasn't our philosophy to get on government assistance. And I'm against all sorts of government assistance, and that's why they don't want to pass it, because a lot of people in the government will lose jobs once you cut spending, because that's socialism. You're cutting socialism, and that's what they don't want. The big government doesn't want you to cut these benefits. It's not because of necessarily the people that they serve these benefits, is because of the Americans who work in the system. They don't want to lose jobs.
Well, President Trump and his administration are not playing around when it comes to being looking into these illegals and making sure that they are not receiving social services, that they are being deported. And this was a huge story over the weekend, particularly on Sunday on Meet the Press. So, of course, you had Kristen Welker. She was interviewing GOP Senator Markwayne Mullin. And the questions she asked him were just really, it was idiotic. But here she is talking about birthright citizenship. This is clip 1.
Do you think babies who are born to undocumented parents should be deported, Senator?
Well, here's what we know. There's a whole industry that has stood up to bring people here in their last month of pregnancy to have a child here, and they come here on a vacation visa, and they have a child, so their child will be able to be U.S. citizens. It's a whole industry. You know it, and I know it. What we're trying to do is end those that are gaming the system.
Should
and that's
those
exactly
babies be
what's happening
deported,
now.
Senator, with their parents? Are you saying those babies should be deported with their parents?
Well, they should go where their parents are. Why wouldn't you send a child with their parents? I mean, why would you want to separate them? I wouldn't want to be separated from my kid, and no parent should want to be separated from their kids. So if their parents are deported, then the child should most definitely go with the parents.
Do you see how these people frame the questions? It didn't even make sense. She asked him, should babies be deported? So of course they're going to go with their mother or their father. If the father or the parents are being deported, then the babies are going to go with them. What, are they going to have babies stay here? It makes no sense, Shelley.
Take the baby, take the bath water, and take the damn bathtub. Send them all packing, whatever, however they came, send them back. Okay, we have to pay for them to go back, whatever. But yes, they should go. I mean, of course, the baby's innocent. The baby has no say, but they should be with their parents. Again, remember, what was the name? The Waco, not the Waco, Tyrone, Cuban, Janet Reno. She sent Elon back.
Elian Gonzalez.
Elian.
Quickly, right? Yeah, they should go back. And I want to mention something that Yana said. Yana, I'm not disputing you about the legals or come here on a green card that they may be able to, that they are entitled. I have a problem with that. And I'm not saying that they don't. Why should anyone come here? Certainly not illegally, but even if they're here on a green card or some kind of visa, why should they come here and be on our taxpayer dole? If you come here, you should have a legitimate purpose, maybe a sponsor, a job, some kind of avenue where you are going to earn legitimate income to care for your needs. Why do we allow this? I don't care. No, you should not. It should not be happening. It should not be happening.
There are so many people who come to this country for a myriad of reasons, but there are people who are actually disabled when they get here. So they do a special kind of medical exam that's for people who are disabled. If you're already disabled, I'm not trying to be harsh, but we don't want you here. We got enough of our own homegrown disabled people. We don't need to import them. It's getting to a point now where Americans are feeling squeezed out of our own nation, squeezed out of our own resources, squeezed out of our own benefits. When we talk about immigrants collecting Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, SNAP, housing vouchers, that stuff's not free. Remember, our government doesn't generate any revenue. That's our money. They're spending our hard-earned dollars on people who aren't supposed to be here. So when someone who actually needs it, who actually is an American, they have a hard road to go. You have a very hard road to go. I'll tell anybody, if you got a kid that's going to college and you're trying to figure out how to pay for it, take you a vacation to Mexico and come back as a DACA kid and let them pay for it fully for you. Because if you're an American citizen, you're going to need several loans to send your child to school. It's just ridiculous. We're upside down with this immigration thing.
Well, just to comment on Shelley, I hear your point. Absolutely. I think American system should be discerning who is getting the benefits. It's just legally, people on a permanent residency here, they're allowed to work, and most of them do. So they do work legally and they pay taxes legally. Therefore, they're also entitled to benefit application. That's just how it is, and that wouldn't change in terms of green card holders. But to comment on that exchange that we just watched, what I'm tired of hearing is treating immigrants like refugees. The way that she's asking that question, should the babies be deported, as if these immigrants are coming from the pits of hell. They're just coming, like, if I didn't come here, I would be fine. All of my friends back in Belarus are fine. We were not fleeing war. So, and most immigrants who are not refugees, they just, they happen to be able to come here for, they have different avenues. So sending them back is not going to kill them and is not going to kill that baby. So stop treating immigrants as refugees or referring to them as refugees. They're not.
Yeah. And let's talk about this landmark Supreme Court case that was sent down regarding birthright citizenship. So again, the Supreme Court just sent shockwaves through the legal system and delivered a massive win for President Trump and the Constitution. So in a decision that could reshape executive power and end judicial activism as we know it, SCOTUS ruled that the lower court judges don't have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions. That means rogue activist judges can no longer block President Trump's or any president's policy from coast to coast with a single pen stroke. And for Trump, that means one thing: birthright citizenship. That is reform is coming on the table for that. So I want to start with you there, Nicole. Do you think that birthright citizenship should be reformed? We should revoke that for people who are having these so-called anchor babies?
Without question, I think we should follow the Constitution. I think, being born as a American is a privilege. Being born under the stars and stripes, it's a blessing from God. Make no mistake. However, if you have two Syrian parents who just happen to be here in the United States when you were born, it should not make you an American. You think about John McCain. He was born not on American soil, but it was an American because his parents had American citizenship. So these are the things that aren't even debated in other nations. It's a hot button issue here because, again, there's a very large contingent of Democrats who would like to remain in power. And the way that they do that is by breeding more Democrats. And I don't mean that in a vulgar sense as far as breeding, but, they're starting to indoctrinate children very early on. They don't wait until their voting age to start hitting them with things. Have you seen the latest episode of Sesame Street and all that kind of thing? They start from the cradle, start growing them up as liberals from that point. So it's important for us to make sure that our immigration policies follow the Constitution. It was not designed for people to come here and 8 months pregnant and have a baby. That's not what the design was.
Yeah, I want you guys to sound off in the chat as well. Do you agree that this birthright citizenship needs to be revoked, or do you think that it was the 14th Amendment clearly says that if you're born here in the United States, you get citizenship? We have a super chat here. All right, thank you so much. Jay Hunter says, "Hey y'all, I'm working on a deal to build a high-end Marriott here in Tampa. Woo! If it goes through, I want y'all to come down and do a podcast on the facility once it's completed." Absolutely.
We will be there. Say less, family. We will show up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Tyrone. Where do you fall for this birthright citizenship?
Birthright citizenship was meant, as Trump said, for slaves and their children, no one else. In fact, birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment, was it was a reaction. Right. It was a constitutional reaction to the Dred Scott ruling, which said that blacks could not be citizens of the United States. So a Republican Congress came in 1866, and they cured that by clearly stating, and when the good Supreme Court justices go back and look at things, they look at the original intent. Mm-hmm. Okay, they look at the mindset that prevailed at the time. And in 1866, no one outside the United States was thinking about coming here and having a kid for citizenship. All right. This was meant exclusively to cure the problem created by Chief Justice Taney and, the other justices that voted in favor of the Dred Scott ruling. Yep. Simple. And here's the thing, though. This is yet another example of how Democrats will co-opt Black causes and Black history to meet their agenda in the modern day. They did the same thing, or they tried to do the same thing when it came to gay marriage. Okay. They tried to say it was akin to, the civil rights struggle. But you have never seen a gay only water fountain, and you've never seen a sign telling gay people to ride on the back of the bus. So it was nowhere near comparable. Okay. But Democrats try this. And look at all the Black politicians who are now willingly jumping on board, trying to convince America that Dred Scott was meant for 8 billion people around the world.
Yeah. I want to get our super chats, folks. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see here. All right. Do we have the super chats here? Okay. Yeah. All right. We have a super chat here. Says a child's citizenship should go by the mother's country of citizenship. All right. Thank you so much, T. All right. Jay says revoke it. There are no slaves here anymore. All right. With the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. I agree. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Nicole. But the 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, subject to the jurisdiction thereof was key. And it excluded foreign diplomats, enemy soldiers, and illegal immigrants. So the framers of this amendment, like Senator Jacob Howard, explicitly said it was meant to apply to freed slaves and their descendants, not people just passing through or breaking the law to be here. And so I don't understand why, and I said this on Christian Conservative last night, President Trump really needs to, change the messaging behind this, because Black folks are the ones that are going to be hurt by this, and they have been hurt by this when the amendment was meant for Black slaves. What are your thoughts there? No, I already got you, Nicole. Did I get you on this?
Well, let me just give you my 2 cents.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
What I feel like is you're absolutely right. The marketing for this particular thing has to be different. We should hear something from the Supreme Court around October. But nationally, I don't know one person who's saying, yeah, you should just be able to jump the border, come here and have a baby. Even Democrats have a problem with that. They don't want to say that part out loud, but when you talk to them one-on-one, they're like, that is really a bad idea, because not everybody who comes here is necessarily someone who's going to bat for their team. For example, let's take a look at those white Afrikaners. I think there were 40 of them, maybe 50. Let's be generous, 50 of them. Democrat heads around this nation were exploding all over the place. How dare you move white people into this nation, conservative white people, rural white people into this nation? You know how many liberal folk we let into this nation annually? This handful of conservative farmers whose lives were actually at risk was such a thing, it made national headlines for 50 people. At that point, there were more than 50 people hopping the border. You know what I mean? So when they think about birthright citizenship, I think everybody in this nation has a dog in that fight. We don't want to misinterpret what it means. You do need to be a subject of the United States, subject to our laws, our rules, our regulations. And if you're here illegally, that tells us right away that you're not subject to any of that. You hold someone else's passport. You are a citizen of that nation. I say this all the time. You want definitive proof of your American citizenship? It is issued by the State Department. It is a U.S. passport. There's nothing else that you can't dispute it anyway. And it's the same thing with other nations. So if you hold a Canadian passport, but you like to party in New York, doesn't make you a New Yorker. You're still Canadian, very much still Canadian. So we need to get, as tough as other countries are about immigration, we really do have to get this under control, or what's going to happen is once Trump leaves office, floodgates back open, and we're right back to square one where we started with Joe Biden in this mess.
So let me ask you this, Shelley, because all these years, this amendment has been read to be, if you are born here, you get citizenship. And, I was on MSNBC, they were losing their minds over now, after all these many, many years, President Trump is trying to change what they feel as though the context and the understanding of the 14th Amendment. So do they have any is that, do you agree with that? Is there any there?
Yeah, so, okay, I'll say it this way. First of all, our Constitution, yes, is our Constitution, a great document, no matter what. But it doesn't mean that laws have not waned and waxed over the years. They've gone one way or the other. And so when the law has not been applied, or maybe it's been misapplied, or maybe even abused, what tends to happen is those people on the opposing side, whatever the argument is, they have, quote unquote, a precedent. They do have some history, if you will, to point to of how that law may or may not have been applied. We have laws, our Constitution, and we have laws that are not applied equally or not applied consistently, whatever the case may be. It also points to, when you talked about this opening about the judges, it also points to rogue or activist judges and lawyers who will manipulate for whatever it is, for whatever their personal advocacy is, they will manipulate the law. So we can't get around these things in a sense, because guess what? Every step of the way, they're human beings. Human beings are going to be on whatever side of the aisle, whatever issue they choose to, and therein lies it's the problem within the beauty of the American system, the American Constitution. So that's already built in. But one of the things that I was going to say about this birthright, two things. One of them is a challenge. I would challenge people on the left who let's take the word birthright literally. I would ask them, okay, if we give birthright citizenship to every pregnant woman, as long as she doesn't have an abortion, would you be okay with that? Because that's what it means. That baby has a right to be born. Would you be okay if we said, okay, no abortion, but in exchange for that, we'll let them be an American citizen? I wonder how much they would, fight for that particular right. And then secondly, my personal point, I love Switzerland. Switzerland is, I think a beautiful country, the laws, the whatever. It's beautifully located where it's situated. But as much as I love Switzerland, if I were to go there and have a baby, my baby would not be a Swiss citizen. I wouldn't even be a Swiss citizen until 10 plus years and all the other things that I would have to do. So no, this is not a universal law, universal matter that everyone who gives birth on American soil should automatically be an American citizen. This is a misapplication of the law, of the precedents, if you will. And again, unfortunately, because we have done so, the other side does have some history to point to.
Right. Yeah. Yana, I want to get your thoughts on this, because the opposition are saying that this is a core principle of American identity. So, they are pushing back and saying the U.S. is a nation built on ideals, not bloodlines. Birthright citizenship reflects, that belief that America is a land of the opportunity for all, not an exclusive club, not an aristocracy. We aren't inherited privilege. In America, your worth isn't tied to your lineage or paperwork. So if you're born here, you're an American. What are your thoughts on that, especially from someone who immigrated here?
Well, as someone who immigrated here, I can tell you that America needs to be very discerning about their immigrants. Immigrants right now are not the same as they were 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Back then, people would come here, and because of different reasons, mostly just physical reasons, that once people moved, they moved and they assimilated. Now it's a totally different type of immigrant here. People who come here, they do not assimilate as much as they did back then. In fact, a lot of them do not assimilate at all. There are immigrants who do not speak English the entire lifetime that they're here. They watch only news from their own country. They only care about what happens in their own country. Even their children, they do not have a loyalty to this country. Immigrants right now are a danger a lot of times, because they may not really be actively dangerous, but the reason why they're dangerous is because they do not hold loyalty to this country. So if something happens here to America, I do not know what's the percentage of immigrants who are ready to die for this country. That would be interesting to survey. So we have to be very discerning about who gets citizenship. And even when people already have their green cards and they're going through a process to become citizens, there has to be a really good selection process who actually gets citizenship.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of you. We have some super chatters here, folks. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you. Please, as you all come in, hit that like button. It really helps to get this video out in front of the masses, in front of more people. We are trying to get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, Labor Day. So please, folks, help us do it. We need your help there. We have TC says birthright citizenship should be abolished. All right, there it is. Trey's Chocolate City says, love spending my Mondays with the best podcast on YouTube. Thank you so much, Trey. We appreciate you. Jessica says, once the 14th Amendment was done serving its purpose, it should have been stricken from the Constitution, but it wasn't. So now we're having this problem. Okay. All right. KJL Podcast says, the Democrats' shameful agenda. It's time for all people, especially the Black community, to wake up. The complicity of the Black church is shameful. False prophets, God will not be mocked. Thank you so much for your $10 super chat. We really appreciate you all. This goes a long way in helping us produce conservative content. This is the last broadcast of the month, so we want to end it with a bang for our super chat. So let's see who can be who's going to do the most super chats of the night. Thank you guys so much. All right, so like we said, President Trump's administration is not playing around, and that takes us to this next video. So this was a woman, a Nigerian woman. I mean, she broke down in tears after being detained and denied entry at a U.S. airport over her social media posts that revealed her true reason for visiting the United States. Take a look, folks. This is clip 2.
So apparently I was denied entrance into the US, and that's because my visa was a B1, B2 visa, which is tourism/business meetings, right? So when I landed, I was detained for like 24 hours in their detention room. And when I was questioned, I told them that I was just only going to exhibit. But I didn't know any better because the US has all your data, your Instagram page, every single thing. So apparently my Instagram obviously says different because they even checked all my messages with my customers. You know, the customers have been telling that we're coming and they can pick up and, you know, all of that. Long story short, this is actually for my US ladies. God knows I tried.
All right. So just in case you guys couldn't hear her, basically she had a certain type of visa. So I think it was B1 or B2 applicants are. Do you understand what happened there, Nicole? Or somebody who was talking?
I understand what happened, and I couldn't quite hear her over the jet engine noise taking her back from
that
where
part,
she
bro.
came. Okay, look, this actually happens to a lot of people every day. Okay, she's nothing unique about her. Don't know if they got Kleenex on that plane, but in any event, look, we have every right, and we got to be unapologetic about this. Going back to the last segment, that senator that Kristen Welker was interviewing, dude, be a man. Answer her question simply.
Right.
No, the baby doesn't deserve to be a citizen just by virtue of the fact that they were born here. You can go through the process, see what happens, but we don't need to be in any way apologetic about the sovereignty of our country, okay? Because Mexico certainly isn't, all right? There, and Canada isn't either, all right? You go up there and cross that border, that northern border, outside the process as an American, and you'll have an issue, okay? As you should. They have every right to protect their sovereignty. So, look, lady, I don't know what you had on your social media. I don't know what you were really coming.
Well, that's what I want to get to. So, I want to talk about that because she had she was promoting her presence at a major U.S. trade fair where she planned to sell some of her goods.
Exactly.
But the type of visa she had was a B1, B2, doesn't allow some type of commercial sales. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
She's not supposed to be working. She's not here to work. The type of visa that she got was for like she could attend a conference, she could do
Right.
some learning, that kind of thing. It was not something where she was supposed to come here and conduct commerce.
It's
So
a
she
tourist.
lied.
It was a
tourist
tourism,
visa.
business tourism, trade visa.
Right.
Right
And
on her application and got blown out because she didn't think that the United States knew about the internet.
Right. Right.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm not losing any sleep, no tears, whatever.
Listen.
Again, this goes to my point. First of all, everything doesn't need to be on social media. Okay. You come here to go to a trade show. I don't even know what her social media said, but everything doesn't need to be, everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing, why, when, where.
Well, that's how she sold her stuff. She
sold her stuff, but she didn't say, she didn't, whatever else she said was apparently, which exempted her from having that type of visa. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have to put everything on there. Nobody, take your ass to the trade show and tour wherever the state was, and then take your ass back to Nigeria. But guess what? You're going back home a little bit sooner. I ain't wasting any tear at all. Zero.
And you can open up an Alibaba or Amazon account and sell your stuff that way if you like. I mean,
she's selling hair. We
Right.
got a foot in the United States selling hair. We don't.
And most of the hair comes from Asia.
We don't need any more weaves. We need sanctions, embargoes on weaves. We don't need any more.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad they're doing this, that they're checking social media, because even though this lady, yes, she should have not been trying to work here when she's not allowed to work here. But what's important is to catch people who are coming here to cause real harm.
Mhm.
So, for example, terrorists who are coming here and they're plotting something, and we need to be checking their social media, their opinions about America, and how they, what are their real intentions here. It's being done. If in Russia, your phone will be checked before you enter, and if they'll see even slight something anti their own country, they may not let you in.
Yeah.
Rubio threw out a bunch of Iranians over the weekend. I mean, he's not here to play with them. He's really not. And I just want to say this as a good passport carrying citizen of Tyronistan. There are no weaves in Tyronistan. There's one weave in Tyronistan. It's a beautiful place to live. The economy is booming, and there isn't a weave anywhere.
The message to influencers and international entrepreneurs is know the law before you post. As Shelley said, immigration laws exist for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
She may be out now forever, because a lot of times if you are caught, because this is a violation, this is a criminal act. If she's caught doing this, she may not ever be able to get any type of visa again.
She won't.
Yeah.
No, for sure. They will not give her a visa again.
Maybe she made a mistake, but again,
1 second. I want to get Yana. What were you saying, Yana?
Well, I just also wanted to say I'm glad that they're doing this, because I know that majority of young people who come here on a tourist visa for longer than a couple weeks to a month, they are working. They're here to work. Because unless you're an old lady and you come in to visit your family and stay with them, because the visa is given for you have 6 months.
Right.
At least to stay, or sometimes a year, they'll give you a visa, and you can stay in America from 6 months to a year on a visa. But if young people who come here, they're definitely working, and so we need to be checking what they're doing here.
Right. Yeah, Shelley, what were your final thoughts on this?
No, I was going to say, let me give her the benefit of the doubt and say maybe she made a mistake, but whatever she was doing, that was not the right visa for whatever she was doing. But then she went and publicized it. But again, I have no tears to spare, not one. Go back home, do it correctly. And I'm not even saying she was coming here with ill intent. She doesn't look like she is, but nevertheless, I don't care. I want the roles cleaned up.
I think she knew. Most of the time, they know.
I'm just saying. I don't think she came here to do any kind of ill intent on American soil. As far as
right.
Yeah, I'll give her that. But I want the roles cleaned up.
She just lied at the embassy. Because you have to go to the embassy and they'll ask you, what is your intention? And she said tourism. And then, but her actual purpose was not that. So you don't lie to an immigration officer and then expect to be let in.
Well, speaking of ill intents, we got to move on to these Chicago teachers unions. So, folks, a viral video just came out recently of Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates mocking parents by talking with a high-pitched, screechy voice and saying how she owns our kids. Take a look. This is clip 3.
The attack on the idea of community is exactly the point. Take, for instance, all of the right-wing outrage over my sister, bilingual music teacher and unionist Kat Zamarin. One of the speakers at our November rally, she quotes brilliantly and perfectly American philosopher James Baldwin. Baldwin says, the children are always ours.
Always. Always.
Every single one of them, all over the globe. And what comes next is, CT, you think your children are its children. Yes, we do. We do. We do. CTU thinks all children belong to it, and there's socialist conspiracy ideology. Well, I don't know about all that, but we like children. We educate them, we nurture them, we protect them, we support them, we negotiate for them, we create space for them. We even have them in our homes. But for real, you guys, in community, we belong to each other.
And that is a Marxist talking point. It is. And James Baldwin, I hate to say it because he was one of my favorite writers many, many years ago. He was a Marxist. I want to get your thoughts on what she said, Shelley.
Two things. I think, and I know I hear about James Baldwin, but I think she misapplied that quote, right? I think I'm going to give James Baldwin the benefit of the doubt in the sense that as any adult, sane adult, parent, uncle, auntie, grandparent, you love children. You have almost a natural love, want to keep children safe. What this wench wants to do, she wants to indoctrinate them via the Chicago Teachers Union and any other teachers union for the most part. So that's not the same thing. I don't think that's what James Baldwin was saying.
It is. He talked about collectivist ideals. He talked about
children in the sense of, they're all ours. We say that in general. We love children, even if they're not ours. We care for children in a general sense. We don't want to indoctrinate them and tell them that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, which is what part of the Chicago Teachers Union and the American Teachers Union, all these other ones, they want to do. They want to corrupt young minds. That's what I'm saying. I don't think James Baldwin wanted to corrupt young minds, regardless of his personal life. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's what she's doing in the Chicago Union. So they want to own children to the point where parents don't have a say.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I got to push back on that because I used to think the same thing. But when you couple what he said with many of his Marxist teachings and education and so on and so forth, I think this is exactly what they believe. I think this was the agenda from day one. This is what they believe. They believe that children belong to the community in a way of sort of this idea of what do you call it when they the collectivism, but not just collectivism, where you have there's no single family unit. Everyone owns these children. I forget the name they call it. Where you
they
share
want to break down the hierarchy.
Right, exactly. Well, he was
Okay.
anti-capitalist as well. He was
Right.
anti-capitalist
I mean,
as
you
well.
may be right. You may be right in the whole, but I'm just saying we say things like that as far as children should be protected and loved and cared. So in that general sense, I'm going to give James Baldwin the benefit of the doubt in this particular case. The unions, of course, I know they want to indoctrinate children totally against their parents, family, any good in any order that they're in. That's what they don't want that at all.
Right. I want to get you in on this, Yana. What did you think of what she said as far as the children belong to all of us?
I mean, that's Marxism, and that's what James Baldwin believed when he said that. He just followed the Marxist principles, and to Shelley's point, even Marxists believe that they're good people. They're not saying these things because they want to destroy children. They think that they're being benevolent. And that's what happens in every Marxist society. They believe they're doing the right thing, that we all need to care for the children equally, that nobody is above anyone, and if we follow the same ideology, that then we all can instill the same ideals to these children. Right now, the parents are in the way of these communists. And that's what was happening in China when they did the Cultural Revolution, in the Soviet Union when they were separating families. They were taking away children from their parents and sending the parents to the camps because the parents were not teaching children Marxism. So, but they were doing the right. They believed that they were benevolent.
Yeah,
And
I'm not saying. Yeah, I agree there, Yana, and I wasn't saying that they were doing this and to be, and with any type of evil mindset in mind. But we have to stop. We have to continue to call them out for what this is. I mean, I think a lot of times, particularly in the Black community, we ignore. We don't connect the dots. And so I think it's doing us a disservice when we say, yes, they believe the state, not parents, should shape our children, morals, identity, and future, destroy the family, and empower the state. This is a core ideal of the Marxists. This is what they believed. James Baldwin was a Marxist. Now they know, because Marxist, the name, has become sort of like a bad stigma. They don't want to call themselves Marxist, so they're trying to remessage and repackage, but we can't let them do that. Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, before we even get to calling them Marxist, let's just call it what it is. It's flat out disrespectful. Let's just do that, right? So here you are, a teachers union representative. You represent the teachers. You don't represent the students. You don't represent the family, and you should not represent the state, right? They're supposed to be wholly two different entities. But what we find is that these teachers unions have taken over education in almost every state that they're in. And they say the students belong to us. They spend more time with us. We love them. We care for them. We provide for them. That's your Marxist comment. But that imitation of what she thinks anybody's parent sounds like, questioning her authority over their own flesh and blood, is absolutely disrespectful. And I don't know who's going to run against her, but if I were running against or advising that person politically, I would play that every single time I spoke to any group of parents anywhere. This is flat out disrespect. Again, it goes back to this tale of two Americas. There's one part of America that says, you're not going to indoctrinate my children. My children belong to me. I will make their educational decisions. We just saw the Supreme Court stand up for parents, especially here in Maryland, in a big, big way against that LGBTQIA plus machine that's gobbling up children hundreds at a time. We did something great here in Maryland, where you see where it's more Democrat, blue leaning, and there is no opposition. This is what you get. You get school boards who say, or teachers union who say, these kids belong to us. We let them sleep at your house, but they'll do what we say. They'll learn what we want them to learn. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And that's disrespectful and it's wrong. We should stand up to that. You're absolutely right, KJ.
Yeah, Tyrone, what are your thoughts on that exchange, that rant?
Her rant, her attitude is simply an extension of the philosophy of the Prussian school system, which is what the American school system and most Western school systems are based on. And that design manufactures minds that follow. Okay, there is a reason why Obama sent his daughters to Sidwell Friends and not a DC public school. There is a clear difference in the types of education. Sidwell Friends they're being taught to critically think. They're being taught true history, okay? Not history, not emotional history, okay? So this is her philosophy is an extension of that Prussian model. And it goes further. What they want to do is convince a large portion of the society, and they really have, that you belong to the greater organization, be it the state, all systems that have failed, especially Black Americans, Appalachia, the Ozarks. You belong to the state. You belong to the church. Okay. And look, the church today is not the church of old. The church today is nothing more, by and large, not all. If you don't do the hit dog holler thing, okay, because if you holler out, then maybe you're guilty. But the church of today, by and large, is a motivational seminar slash, get rich quick scheme. The state, the church, and these politicians, which you always talk about, are symbols. So look, as far as what she's saying, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Okay. Yeah. And if you want your child to have an actual quality education, not just be trained to follow, if you want, you got to take them out of that system. And people will complain and say, but I work. I know. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to sit down with your kid at the kitchen table for 8 hours. Research it. There are ways to get your child out of that system and give them a real quality, enlightening education. Produce a philosopher king, not another follower.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tyrone. And these teacher unions, the same ones, Gates and her union, shut down schools for nearly 2 years during COVID while sending their own to private schools. They fight school choice. They block curriculum transparency and promote gender ideology without parents' consent. So again, they don't educate, they indoctrinate and isolate. And we're calling them out because they're doing it, and they're doing it intentionally. All right. So folks, if you're a parent who's fed up with this woke union, these woke union bullies mocking your rights, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this segment. Your kids are your responsibility, not the state's. Let us know what you think in the comments. We have some super chats here. I just want to acknowledge you all. Thank you so much. All right, let's see here. Jessica Price with the $10 super chat says, no other country helped us fight England in the American Revolution but France. So if anyone has free entry to this country, it's the French. Everybody else, take a number, do it right, or kick bricks. Okay, that's an interesting take there. Thank you so much. KJL Podcast with a $10 super chat says, James Baldwin, a Marxist, his words sounded poetic. I know, I got his book right behind me. Yet he was subtly indoctrinating minds with dangerous ideology. I'm against that mindset and the influence it continues to have on generations. Yep, you're right. You're right. All right, folks, thank you all so much. Keep those super chats coming and hit that like button as you all come in. Speaking of France, since you brought it up, breaking news out, folks. Candace is back at it. Candace Owens is back at it. She just released a video today going after President Trump's administration, saying that he allegedly contacted her about speaking out about French president's wife, Brigitte Macron. Take a look at this. She just will not let up. She is on a war. She is at war with President Trump, it seems like. Here she is.
Call that person back. They tell me something that is even stranger. They say, look, I again am the messenger here. What I was told from somebody that's pretty high up at the White House is that Emmanuel Macron is holding up negotiations to end the Russian and Ukrainian war unless you stop speaking about his wife. And I'm just going, what? What are you saying? What are we even speaking about? What do you mean negotiations between Russia and Ukraine? I'm just like, looking into a story at my house. I've got a very small team here, and you're telling me that somehow negotiations are being held up and it needs to be communicated to me that I got to stop talking about Brigitte? What are we saying? And then I'm asking myself in my mind, because I hang up this phone and I am in true shock. Did Emmanuel Macron pretend to fly into DC under the guise of negotiations, the Russia and Ukraine war, and then instruct someone on his entourage to have an off the books discussion, a little meeting on the side, maybe somebody again, like a Susie Wiles, where he made his truer demands? Like, hey, this is for the pictures. Me and Trump are talking about you. We're going to get it done. And then what really goes on behind the scenes is like, we're not doing anything until that little podcaster, Candace, agrees to shut her mouth. What? This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. Okay. So I say, we ended the conversation. I say, I'm going to sleep on this. It's a lot to process. I remember I get into bed and I just turn to my husband and I say, no one will ever believe us. Just something that just arrived at me very slowly. I said, no one will ever believe that this just took place. And my husband's like, yeah, no. This is just very, very strange. And I promised the individual that I would pray on it, that I would think further about the situation. What are the implications here? And I then call him back the next day and I say, look, this is pretty weird. You have to admit this is pretty weird. And you're not really giving me any details. And I kind of want to know who specifically you spoke to, because I think it kind of matters. Is somebody trying to do a side deal while Trump is doing a different deal? And at that
Okay. So she does go on to say that Trump was on the line demanding her stop talking about Brigitte Macron. This is what she's saying. Now, she did not provide any evidence to that. Shelly, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about this?
I actually saw much of that earlier today.
Okay, good. Okay.
I did. And my first thought, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. And she said, people won't believe it. I don't believe it, number one. Number two, initially she said the person, whoever the friend is, said that, she didn't know, she didn't say, he said someone higher up or who had access to the president. But nevertheless, why is she saying this now? This happened back in February. What's the point? What's the purpose now? The only thing I could think of is that she's finding some kind of way to take a dig at President Trump. I mean, it's meaningless. I do not believe by any stretch of the imagination that Macron came here and told the president that he's not going to sign a deal if Candace Owens doesn't stop talking about it. That just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, Nicole, so Candace has compared herself to the Holy Spirit. And now she's saying that she is the holdup of the Ukraine-Russia war because of her stories that Brigitte Macron is actually a man. I mean, what do you think?
She started this foolishness in January, and Macron said, listen, you keep it up, I'm going to have to get some lawyers on your tail, right? The one thing I will agree with her on, one thing, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. This is without question lunacy. She's having these, thoughts of grandeur. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she's, if you've been pregnant before, toward the end of your pregnancy, there's not a lot of blood flow that goes to your brain. It really isn't. And you do things you ordinarily wouldn't do. And I'm not making excuses for her because she's been off the chain even before the pregnancies, right? But this is a step too far to think that the world hinges on whether or not she talks about somebody on her podcast is really rich, even coming from Candace Owens. She has been on this weird spiral probably the last 2 to 3 years, and I don't know where it's going to end. I hope she lands safely. I hope she gets, all the care that she needs and goes on to lead a happy life. But this is really starting to get to a point where there are going to be people who intervene. You can't say that the president of the United States called you to talk to you about you saying that some other world leader's wife is a man, and it's already a lawsuit. It make it make sense, Candace. Just make it make sense. This is foolishness.
Yana, this is sad. Why was she crashing out like this? I don't like it. My heart breaks for this girl because she's just ruining her reputation. And I know you've been one of the ones that have been talking about Candace from day one, but what's going on?
I don't know. Like I said, I think she's high on the attention. And she is like a female version of Alex Jones right now.
Now, Alex Jones has been right on some things. He's been right on some things.
Right, but when you do listen to him, like when he was coming out a lot, you just listen to him and you're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know which part is true, which part is made up. Like, what are you saying? Are you crazy? Like, that is the impression I had of Alex Jones. You're kind of like, I don't know, this guy sounds nutty. So like, that's what she sounds like right now. Like a weird conspiracy theorist that sometimes gets something right, and then other times is like the earth is flat. So, that's the kind of person that she has become. So I think eventually nobody's going to take her seriously. I mean, that's already getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tyrone. I mean, and she's coming out against President Trump now. I mean, why? We're about to go into midterms. We're trying to get this bill passed. I mean, people say, oh, why do we care? Well, Candace Owens has a large platform. She does have a major voice in media, on social media. What's going on? Why is she going out against Trump now? Why is she trying to blacken his door?
Well, she seems like she's the friendship with Kanye makes more sense now because they both kind of erratic, and I don't know if her husband is just, maybe he's thinking, look, I'm about to go to bed next to this woman. Let me just entertain her with these delusions so I can wake up in the morning. Otherwise, he should have said, hey, come on now. You know good and damn well the fate of Russia and Ukraine is not hanging in the balance based on you. I mean, come down from this, perch that you're on. So look, I think the more she goes on this route, the more legitimacy she will lose. Like I said the other week, I never paid attention to her. She was conservative Inc., her and Ben Shapiro. And she's on 14 minutes and 30 seconds of her fame.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, sort of people just off their rocker let's move on to Zohran Mamdani. So Zohran Mamdani was all over media this weekend pushing his unapologetic socialist agenda. Take a look here. This is clip 4.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment. And what I want to say is that it is critical that in the way that we organize, in the way that we set up our work, and our priorities, that we do not leave any one issue for the other, that we do not meet a moment and only look at what people are ready for, but that we are doing both of these things in tandem, because it is critical for us to both meet people where they're at and to also organize for what is correct and for what is right, and to ensure that over time we can bring people to that issue. The ramifications of victory here is the difference between life and death for so many of our brothers, sisters, and family beyond the binary across this borough of Queens. It's the difference between having cash bail anymore or not. It's the difference between having sex work be decriminalized and not. And with every battle that we fight as socialists, we need to remember what the stakes are and ground ourselves in them, and why those stakes are important and critical to us as individuals.
This guy is sick. Sick, Shelly. I mean, what is going
let me do this real
on?
quick. I don't want to monopolize, but Earl.
Hello?
I was responding to another comment when I was talking about Marxists, is that even when a Marxist maybe is coming from a good intention, they're still pushing an evil ideology.
Yes.
And this guy, he needs to be thrown out of the country. He needs to just like what happened to when it was the Cold War, and anyone who was a Marxist would not be allowed to be in America. Now they're completely proliferating here. And so if someone is saying that they're a Nazi and running for office, everyone's going to say, oh, no, that can't be happening. But someone is saying that he's a communist. Oh, okay, that's great. What is going on?
Yeah. What's going on is partly, or maybe fully, most of the elites, the wealthy people who voted for him, they are the ones who can afford to leave when the shit goes downhill, right? So they don't care. It's part. I mean, we talk about Marxism on here a lot. Either I'm beginning to believe or seeing it more clearly. The wealthy people want to implement and put in these plans, these Marxist plans, then they get to escape from the consequences of it. And then they leave the people who maybe can't leave, they leave them there to suffer in the shit, in the mire that they have helped to put on the map, so to speak. I don't understand how, I do understand how he got elected or primary, but what's interesting is that this is the Democratic Party. So far, what's his name? Hakeem Jeffries and someone else. They haven't officially endorsed him.
Well, before we get into that, we have them here. I want to get into that next. Let's play this next clip because they have not endorsed.
Got it. One other point. Across our country, this is the highlight, if you will, of the two world views for our country. That's the big battle in our country right now. We see it in all aspects of government, in churches, in communities. We see it. This is the worldview. This is a mindset, a cultural worldview battle of, are we going to have an America based on the Constitution, capitalism, if you will? Of course, capitalism has its own problems, but nowhere near like communism and socialism. And capitalism around the world is the only system that has elevated people out of poverty. So this is basically a clash of worldviews.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the Democrat Party seem to be distancing themselves from him slightly. So before we get into that, let's play this next clip 6.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class taxes. Even on the wealthy. I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign, and ultimately we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think you're going to be able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor, because ultimately my policies, my vision, it's driven by an assessment of what's actually happening. The Fiscal Policy Institute found that the top 1% of New Yorkers leave at 1/4 the rate of other income groups. And when they do leave, it's actually to other states considered high tax, New Jersey, California. So it's not fiscal policy, it's quality of life. And ultimately, the reason I want to increase these taxes on the top 1%, the most profitable corporations, is to increase quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed.
Wow. Nicole, how is this even likable by anyone? Why would anyone think this is something good?
Well, most people don't. But most people don't vote in mayoral elections. Let's just do that. You see people who won't agree to endorse him or say, hey, he's a great guy, because they have districts that have Jews in it. They have districts that have Black people in it. So, you know, people who have lived through some things hear actually what he's saying. And he's not fit to serve. He really isn't. This man is personified evil. Make no mistake. He brings hell, death, and destruction with him, and he's selling it to you as, you don't have to work. We'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about food. We'll issue you food. We'll issue you happiness. We'll issue you everything. Well, where the hell do you think he's going to get it from? Where do you think? Because if you're someone who runs a $1 billion business and you happen to have a home in New York City is one of your haunts, you're going to pick it up and do what everybody else has been doing. You're going to pack it up and take it to Florida. So much so that Byron Donalds came out over the weekend and said, listen, New Yorkers who are coming to Florida, let me tell you, don't bring that bullshit down here. We ain't doing that here. We're not doing any of that socialist, communist, Marxist bullshit here. You can come and enjoy the sunshine and bring your checkbook with you, but leave your politics in New York City. We're not doing that here. And
we have some super chatters here. Oh, yeah. We have some super chatters here, folks. Thank you all so much. All right. T says, I am laughing so hard right now. She is crazy. All right. Yeah. He gives me the ick big time. Absolutely. And he gives not only you the ick, but Hakeem Jeffries. You can see it here. Take a look. This is clip 7.
You mentioned the diversity of your district, including a lot of Jewish constituents. Mamdani has made comments that some have said veer towards anti-Semitism. His initial statement after October 7th, he criticized the Israeli government, but didn't criticize Hamas. He defended the use of the word globalize, or the phrase globalize intifada. And he even said that the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu should be arrested, or he would, if he were mayor, he would arrest Netanyahu if he visited New York City. Do these things concern you?
Globalizing the intifada, by way of example, is not an acceptable phrase, and he's going to have to clarify his position on that as he moves forward. With respect to the Jewish communities that I represent, I think our nominee is going to have to convince folks that he is prepared to aggressively address the rise in anti-Semitism in the city of New York, which has been an unacceptable development. And any mayor, whether you're a Democratic mayor, a Republican mayor, an independent mayor, has got to commit to the safety and well-being of all of the people of the city of New York. And when there are moments of crisis and a rise in anti-Jewish hate, that's a threshold, of course, needs to be crossed.
Wow. So Yana, I mean, now he's in a previous clip, he said they asked would he endorse Mandami, and he said he would not. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think Democrats have included way too many Marxists into their tent.
Mm-hmm.
And Marxists, these people like Mamdani, like AOC, like others who are clearly Marxist and they're pushing Marxist ideology, they'll be the nail in the coffin of the Democrat Party. And they're already worried. The Democrats are starting to get worried that this is getting out of control.
Yeah, Tyrone, Hakeem Jeffries, that's your man. And he wouldn't endorse him. And he's pushing back on his comments about Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, to the citizens of Tyronistan, our internet problems are due to the imperialists, but we will prevail. This guy, Hakeem Jeffries, he's got to walk a real tightrope. And as Yana just pointed out, I don't know if the seesaw has tipped yet and the party is Marxist and belongs to the Marxists at this point, and Hakeem Jeffries is just one of the stragglers that are still hanging around for the time being. But the Democrat, this is not Bill Clinton's party. It's not even Barack Obama's party. This is a party of Marxists and communists. I don't even want to use that democratic socialist language. These are Marxists and hardcore communists. And what I said earlier with regard to the theft and death part, look, it's popular now to go out and say, we don't like your message, your ideology, your agenda. So the answer to that is to take you out of here. Look at the CEO of United. Okay. United Healthcare, right. Luigi Mangione is a hero in far left circles. Okay. You see this turn to violence as the alternative. Look what happened with Tesla. Okay. So I don't even know if this is still, they're calling themselves the Democrats. They've hijacked that mantle, but these people they're something else entirely. Hakeem Jeffries, he looks sleepy most of the time anyway, but right there, he looked like he had, he was behind enemy lines and, he was being forced to make a statement. So.
Yeah. I want to get you in on this, Shelley. This next clip here, again, Zoran Mamdani is talking about he will not condemn the use of globalize the intifada. Clip 5.
Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead the city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech.
Quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible.
Shelley, he wouldn't condemn it. He wouldn't.
Look, when and if this man is elected, no one can say that he didn't tell us. Okay, he told us exactly who he is, what he believes, and what he's going to do. You cannot say that he did not tell us. You can't say that he was lying. That's number one. Number two, in other words, translation, he does not give a damn about Jews. He wants an intifada on American soil, no less. He wants that. He does not care. In fact, I'm going to go and assert that he would want an Islamic state of New York, not just a city. He wants an Islamic state of New York. Hell, the United States for that matter. This man is he's evil, or his theology. I'm going to call it theology. His philosophy is evil, and what he is purporting to do is evil. I'm going to sum it up in my alliteration: progressive policies pulverize the people they purport to protect. And how do you pronounce his name? Mamdani. Yeah, Mamdani. He has told us what he intends to do. American soil, American Constitution be damned. This man is, in my opinion, my never to be humble opinion, he's an Islamist, and he is here to do his agenda.
Right. And as Ali said, is Zoran Madman. Zoran Madman is what Ali called We have a super chatter here. Thank you all so much. All right. Teresa with the $10 super chat says, ladies and Tyrone, I actually finally caught you live. Our schedule is finally in sync. So much sense comes from you. How do we straighten out these morons? Be the strong voices you are. Thank you. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you. We certainly appreciate you and everyone who was able to super chat tonight. Again, this is the last day of the month, so we want to get these super chats in for us. And it really helps. It goes a long way to get us to push out conservative content. All right. We will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We will be back here live. So please check us out. Hit those notifications so you know when we go live. Tomorrow night, we have the All American Talk show. Tomorrow night, check them out at All American Talk. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be a great show at All American Talk. And then, like I said, we will be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. live in the studio. Wow, it's the 4th of July week for us, folks. Can't wait to celebrate the 4th. Super excited for that. So that does it for us tonight. Until next time, wishing you warm days and starry nights. Good night.